It's RNG, it's a godsend.
I also noticed they did change a few enemies' name, but for the Crazy Horse, they just went with a synonym, which is, in the NES version, is Mad Pony.
And for that, it was a character limit.
Yep. And
all right.
You were talking about Dungeon and Dragon a while earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had to change 2 enemy sprites and names in the US version to avoid, you know, lawsuits or whatever.
That's absolutely right. So if you looked at the Pisco Demons, they look very similar to Mind Flayers from Dungeons and Dragons. There's also an enemy later on that's an Evil Eye that if you had the Famicom version is actually called a Beholder.
Yep. And for this one, they even changed the sprite because it was just too obvious.
So the one thing that makes sense in this game is after giving a crystal eyeball to a witch, she gives you a witch's brew of a Jolt tonic.
Well, yeah, go.
So we're going to use this Jolt tonic to wake up a slumbering elf prince. So you'll notice that within the first 20 minutes, we've saved 2 members of royalty. I mean, we save the princess faster than they do in Super Mario Bros. 1. In Super Mario Bros. 1, it takes them 4 minutes and 58 seconds. We save Princess Sarah in under 4 minutes.
Yeah, take that, Mario. Also, you're gonna exchange the crystal eye for some kind of brew, which is much less suspicious than the NES version where you exchange crystal for herb.
A magical plant.
I mean, just exchanging a crystal for an herb doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
No, and we're going to have to nuke these guys again because Sahagins are being a pain because of their high agility score.
This is one of the few enemies that seem worse than in the NES version.
It's just so hard to run away from wolves and Sahagins until we have some agility boosting items that we'll pick up in a little bit. So now we're going to sail back to Elfheim where we just were, and we're going to take care of our sleeping elf prince problem.
Yeah, as somebody mentioned in the chat, wolves and Sahagins are the bane of the speedrun.
Absolutely, they are such a pain. Worst enemy ever. All right, so we head over, talk to the healer that has not healed the prince. We're gonna give him a witch's brew. He's not even gonna test it. It's not FDA approved. And he's just gonna give it to the prince, hoping that it works. Video games.
That sounds like Big Pharma with extra steps.
So we've now obtained a key that will allow us into 2 treasure rooms that we're gonna use. So we step out of the castle, back into the castle. That just saved us 2 to 3 seconds. So we don't have to walk all the way around the castle. We'll come over here to the first treasure room, pick up a mithril hammer and bronze gloves. We're also gonna take care of this warrior who's taking a dirt nap. It's not time to sleep, dude. You still got work to do. All right. Oh, that worked. Sometimes you get going so fast, you're not sure if it... Come on, there we go. It's a frame-perfect glitch, so it can sometimes be a little problematic.
That's a lot of Thieves' Armlet.
That's right. And every time we put a Thieves' Armlet on, they get an ability stack. There we go. Come on, there we go. Sage's Staff. We use that for boosting intelligence. So that way those Judgment Staffs, the damage is calculated off of the intelligence score. So we've just boosted their intelligence score slightly, so it'll make the Judgment Staffs and future spells that we use a little bit more powerful.
Which is already a good upgrade from the NES version where intelligence did nothing.
Absolutely nothing. The NES version is unfortunately such a broken piece of mess, but it's so enduring. It kick-started the franchise, so it's not all bad. It's just there's so many things that we didn't realize were broken in the game.
I mean, I know I'm wrong, but it's still my favorite.
I tried to run it. I loved the game, but apparently nostalgia cannot cover up the slow overworld movement. The dash mechanic just makes the game so much more playable.
Yeah, this is why I really like the randomizer.
Now, if we were doing the White Mage Less Dagger route, we would go in the treasure room on the right, and we would pick up an item that we would glitch to allow us to cast a Fire spell. But because my Black Mage already knows Fire, I don't have to do that, and it saves me a little bit of menuing. And that, for me, is the big thing that the Black Mage Less Dagger route does for me, is I don't have to memorize where items are in the item inventory. I just have to remember where all the spells are in the spell list, which is a lot less scrolling for me. So we've picked up Nitro Powder, and even though there is some whiz-bang technological stuff in Final Fantasy I, there are no NASCARs. So the next best thing to do with Nitro Powder is to give it to some Duragar dwarves to blow stuff up. So we're going to do that in just a minute.
And this is going to be the end of the fetch quest.
Absolutely. We can finally have access to the entire world.
Where you're going to go into another fetch quest in order to get the 4 crystals.
Because fetch questing is how Final Fantasy I works. So we've given Narek the Nitro Powder, the last ingredient he needed, and he's going to blow up this isthmus, so that way we have access to the rest of the world. We're actually stuck in an inland sea right now. As soon as he blows this up, we'll be able to go and access the rest of the world.
Okay. This part is much longer than the NES, where you just give it to him, he disappears, and you go on your way.
Yep. But we're going to skip this animation because we're switching graphic engines. So instead of watching a cool animation, we're going to skip it. Because time. Who wants to do a game slow? We're here to do games fast. All right, so Narek is happy. He got to blow stuff up. And we're happy because now we can go on our way. So now we're going to race out of the Duragar cave and head over to Melmont. Now, you'll remember I have Knight's Armor that I just disequipped from all my characters. I would be able to purchase it if I was casually running the game in about a minute and a half. So that's how early on we get the Knight's Armor and why it gives us such a high defense ability boost at the beginning of the run.
Yeah, Knight's Armor, which are called, like, I think steel armors in the original versions. And they're worth like 48,000 gilds apiece.
Absolutely. We're going to make the most of that because all those Knight Armor that I still have, those 4, we're going to sell them off, and that's going to be the last thing we need to do to have enough money for what we need for the rest of the run.
See, because this is actually the most expensive piece of armor in the game.
Now that whirlpool that we just sailed past, that whirlpool is actually a bonus dungeon. We're not going to go in there. You only go in the whirlpool if you are doing 100% boss run. We are not doing that. But we're going to pick up steel gloves, and we're going to come in here, and we're going to break the game by equipping the most powerful sword that exists in the game. The Barbarian Sword is a PSP only weapon, as I recall. It might be in Dawn of Souls, GBA. Chat can correct me on that. But the Barbarian Sword has such a high critical rate and strength rate that we can pretty much one-hit kill any enemy in the game. So I've essentially created 2 glass cannons with the fighter and the thief.
Does that sword replace the Mass Moon from the original version, or is just something completely different?
It's something completely different. The Master Moon is still in here, but we won't go get it.
Oh.
Because the Barbarian Sword is so much better.
Yeah, and the Mass Moon is a long way off.
Now you'll notice that we just had a shadow encounter earlier, just before we came in the cave. So, cool tidbit, when they were programming the game, they intended for shadows to have a high ambush rate. They accidentally inverted that score, so you actually have a high probability of a preemptive strike against shadows. So they were supposed to be able to ambush you like crazy, but usually we can get away from them fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think they got something like a 90% chance of ambushing you.
Now, if this was just about 10 minutes later, I would leave these guys poisoned. But I need them for right now, so I'm going to bring them back from the brink of death.
We got Poor Sky from the chat saying, nope, the Barbarian Sword is a PSP only item. It was added as one of the reward for defeating the PSP exclusive super boss Chronodia.
There you go, and Forsyth would know. He's one of the guys that has contributed a lot, he and Double Drop, in creating some of the new routes that everybody uses. So since he's in the chat, props to you, Forsyth. Because of you, you've helped a lot of amateurs like me be able to get good at this game. He's actually number 2 on the leaderboard right now. And if you went by running it on console, he's number 1. The current number 1 on the leaderboard is on emulation.
Oh well, not too shabby.
And for the most part, they play the exact same. The main difference, a second, menuing, okay. The main difference is that when you reset, there's a little bit more delay on the PSP than on emulation. So you'll notice here I had to fight the Pisco Demons. You have to fight the Pisco Demons because they're still flagged as an unrunnable encounter. So because they were a mini-boss, for the remainder of the run, anytime we run into them, we have to finish the fight. So here's the vampire. This is not a very difficult fight.
Bye-bye.
Because he's gone. Because Barbarian Swords.
Well, to be fair, even in the original version or even without speedrunning the game, this is not a hard boss.
So we're going to pick up the Star Ruby. If we were casually playing, we would foolishly think that by going through the door and going behind the antechamber, we would go to the rest of the cavern.
Nope.
Psych! There's another fetch quest involved.
And this is one of the part a lot of people hate about the original game, because you have to basically do this dungeon 1.5 times.
Yep. You essentially walk through here 3 times, and it's such a pain. Now, if I was not doing a marathon, one of the runners, what is it? Not Lenopus, Leonis. He's in France. Leonis likes to do the 15 sliding number puzzle on the boat. With this, if you complete the 15 sliding number puzzle at around 30 seconds, you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting an emergency exit. If you can pick up an emergency exit, you will use it right after you get the Star Ruby, and you save 2.5 minutes on the run. But you're risking 30 seconds. So there's a little bit of risk reward, but you have to get good at the 15 number sliding puzzle. And even as a kid, I never had patience for the 15 number slide puzzle. So you can imagine as an adult, I still don't have patience for the 15 number slide puzzle.
Yeah, I never did that either.
But it has made a huge difference for Leonis last year. Earlier this year, as we were doing the Total Chaos 3 Final Fantasy 1 tournament, there was a couple times where that 2.5 minutes gave him the race. Yeah. So it can be really helpful. It can be a good gamble if it works out for you.
I can see that happening.
So now we have finally exited the Earth Cave, and we're going to head over to the Sage's Cave, but first we have to go through the Giant's Cave. So you'll notice that we are very, very creative in naming our caves. The Earth Cave is full of dirt, so we call it the Earth Cave. The Giant's Cave, can you guess what's in there?
Spiders?
A giant. But he likes ruby snacks, and it just so happens that we have one.
I feel like they were more original in the original version because it was the Titan Tunnel. At least it was not a cave.
So the Giant is very grateful that we gave him a snack. So apparently he's on break now, OSHA regulations. So he's just going to wander off and let us through the rest of the tunnel.
Basically, he's the Snorlax of this game.
Absolutely. And where did he go? He just disappeared.
He's made of rock. He just merged with the wall.
So that's actually a theory that Chris Asherit has, is that using Dungeons and Dragons, in the Dungeons and Dragons mythos, giants can meld with stone. So his assertion is that after we give him the Star Ruby, he just does a stone meld and disappears.
Yep, and now you got the item you need to finish Earth Cave.
Yep. So Final Fantasy I trope, when in doubt, find a guy with a long white beard. He probably has a key item that you need. So now equipped with the Earth Rod, we can do the long trek all the way back to Earth Cave, and then all the way through Earth Cave. So it's just more RNG. Do you guys have any donations that you need to read off? This is a pretty good time. We're just walking here.
And if there...
Okay.
So this would be a good time to donate, wink wink.
Absolutely. Unless you want to keep listening to my corny jokes. My brother Tavtendo has been vetting my jokes, and there's a couple of them that he banned me from using today. So I did not use the joke about dwarves stereotypically speaking Scottish. I didn't use that joke.
Oh well, he's on the chat right now actually.
So while I'm walking here and there's no donations, shout out to Tavtendo. That's my younger brother. He started speedrunning, and he's the one who actually got me back into video gaming. I took about a decade off from video games. You know, adulting got in the way. And he started speedrunning Final Fantasy II and Breath of Fire and convinced me to give it a try. So I started speedrunning Undertale. And right as I was getting into speedrunning, the Final Fantasy I Total Chaos tournament was happening. So I signed up for it, not thinking I would be able to do well. And I just missed making it out of qualifiers. They took the top 16, I was number 17. But it's all because of Tavtendo that I'm actually here today, speedrunning Final Fantasy I. So thank you, little brother, you're the man.
So now it's gonna be your turn to convince him to submit to our events.
So funny fact, I actually was talking to him yesterday, and if DreamHack is here again next year, and NoReset will be here with DreamHack, he's gonna submit a run, and we're gonna do we'll both be here. So you'll have two brothers here.
Oh.
So we had a husband-wife duo just before me. Next year, hopefully, we'll have a brother duo.
Two brothers.
Two brothers playing video games really fast.
In a convention. Running away from aliens and explosions.
That sounds like a great Rick and Morty skit. We should send this in.
We should.
All right, so there are two ways through B4. Now, Pisco Demon fight, we can't skip it. Oh no! The staff doesn't do what we want it to. That's all right.
I meant to ask earlier, is the unrunnable encounters the same as the NES version? Because there's quite a lot of them on the NES.
There's a lot in here too. Oh, okay, I jacked up the menuing there, but the Black Mage came in for me. So when I do a little bit of healing up as I'm going into the Lich, into the Lich encounter, I'll try to ether up my guys so that way the Black Mage can actually start casting magic. Because otherwise it defeats the purpose of doing the Black Mage less dagger route if the Black Mage has no MPs.
Yeah. Is Nuke non-elemental or fire elemental in this one?
I'm not exactly sure what its element is. It's pretty much Finger of God, though. It destroys everything on impact.
Yeah. Because I know in the original version, Nuke was non-elemental. So even if an enemy had protection against everything, it would still blast them off.
All right, so this is going to be a safety save. everybody saves here. And the reason is because Lich has a high agility score, and if he moves before us, he has a higher probability of casting Blizzaria. So your magical defense is dictated on your level. Because we're speedrunning, our levels are very low. So we are not going to be able to fend off a Blizzaria, and we will have to reset. So here's hoping Warrior cuts through.
There we go.
Woo! First try. Thank you, thank you. It's all the Warrior. He came in for me. So Lich, both times you fight him, this time, but then at the end of the game, he is the trolliest boss. So most people have to reset at least once or twice because he will move quickly and then cast a very powerful AoE spell.
I'm guessing the second time he's gonna cast Nuke.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have just activated the Earth Crystal, and now we have to sit through an unskippable cutscene. So as we were traversing the world map, you may have seen a cave off to your left as we were going to the Chaos Shrine. In this cave is the first bonus dungeon. As I mentioned earlier, we're not doing a 100% boss, so we are not going back to this cave. But if we were, it's now open. So we step on this teleport tile, and we're out.
All right, 1 out of 4.
So now we're gonna head down, pick up a canoe, and we're gonna do our 1 level grind that we do for this entire run. I don't know about the NES version. I don't know how many level grinds you guys have to do, but in the PSP version, this is the only scheduled level grind that you have to do is in Ice Cave.
Against DI?
Yes.
Okay, so same as the NES version. I actually don't speedrun the first Final Fantasy game. I just played it a lot.
Okay.
I completed it like, I'd say 25 times.
Oh, that's impressive. On the NES version, I have completed it 0 times. But that's part of the reason I picked this up as a speedrun game, because 10-year-old me was crushed by this game, so I was hoping that 38-year-old me could crush the game back.
Yeah, and you did.
Yep, I've done it quite a few times now, so I've helped to massage my ego a little bit.
Actually, I think the only thing I've never done with the NES version is speedrunning it.
So the Warrior is poisoned, and we're going to leave it on him. The reason we're leaving the poisoning on is in Ice Cave, we want Warrior and Thief to take a dirt nap for a little bit, so that way we can focus on leveling up the White Mage and the Black Mage. So the game has actually done me a favor in poisoning the Warrior, because he'll get down to 1 hit point, and then hopefully any hit will kill him. So then it saves me having to deal with Evil Eye RNG, hoping for a Thundra to take out Warrior and Thief. So now we're in Crescent Lake. We're going to do a little bit of item shopping. We're going to pick up some mithril gloves, and we're going to step out, circle around, go to the weapon shop, and we're going to pick up a mithril axe. So we're going to do a little bit more glitching here, setting up for Ice Cave. We're going to put black garbs on everybody. Again, we're stacking evasion items. So that way we can run away fast. Oh. There we go. Nope. I'm doing that wrong. Come on. Oh, you know what I'm doing wrong? I know what I'm doing wrong. Let me get the Lust Dagger. I need to do a formation change. The only formation change we do in the entire run. I knew I was going to forget something. That's okay. So we'll stack black garbs on him. And then we'll put a Lust Dagger on him. And that's it. Now, because the Warrior's going to take a dirt nap, we're not even going to worry about his equipment, because he doesn't play. Once he dies, we will be at Merilith before we bring him back. Now, you would think the guy that's dressed really snazzy would be the guy that has the canoe. It's not. It's the guy next to him. Still a guy with a long white beard. So my trope still holds. It's just they play the fast one, and it's not the one who's snazzy dressed. So now that we have the canoe, we can traverse water tiles. The nice thing about traversing the freshwater water tiles is that they have a lower encounter rate than saltwater. So it's pretty much like walking across marsh.
Also, right now you can also go to the volcano, but I guess you're gonna do the ice cave first because it's linked to the airship.
Right, because the airship is so much faster than sailing. So we're gonna go to Ice Cave, pick up the Levy Stone, get the airship, and then we're actually still not gonna go to Volcano. We're gonna go and do the class change real quick.
So, ordeals?
Yes. Because Bahamut believes that a rat tail is a sign of bravery.
Yeah, well, if you put it on a chest at the end of a castle filled with monsters, it is a sign of bravery.
You know, and somebody else pointed out, I don't remember who it was, that throughout this entire run, you never fight rats.
Yeah.
In almost every other fantasy-themed game, you have rats that you fight, but not in Final Fantasy. So that may be why it's a badge of bravery. Bahamut has eaten all the rats, so the only way you can get a rat tail is in the Citadel of Trials. So here's safety save number 2. Ice Cave is full of things that will kill you dead.
Yeah.
Lots.
This is by far the hardest dungeon in the game when you play casually.
And unfortunately, because we pulled the Sage's staffs off of the White Mage and Black Mage, we have to go back to using the Judgment Staff because their intelligence score is too low to use Thundra. And again, it was a Pisco Demon fight, so we had to get through it. And somebody's hopefully going to do me the solid and kill the warrior. So I'm waiting to see who gets that badge of honor.
Also, earlier you were mentioning that you got your revenge on this game. We have Dave Tendo on chat saying, next up, revenge on Legacy of the Wizard.
Oh my goodness. That must be my brother. So, story behind that. My grandmother in the 90s, actually it was the late 80s, went to a video game store and asked them for the absolute hardest game they had for her grandson who was good at video games. They suggested Legacy of the Wizard. Probably the most unintuitive game I have ever played in my life. There is no direction in it. My best friend who borrowed that game had to keep calling the Nintendo hotline to figure out how to beat that game. It is such a hard game. But Dragon Darch actually speedruns that game, and he has been absolutely crushing that game.
Is it worse than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as far as direction goes?
It's pretty bad, because it really, for the most part, gives you absolutely no hints or clues. You just have to fumble around and figure it out. Now, Dark Wizards are very dangerous. They have a chance to cast Firaga, and again, our magical defense is too low. We are not going to be able to fend off a Firaga. That would be a reset.
Yeah, basically throughout all of this run, what you want to avoid is powerful spells.
Yes. Any powerful AoE spells will crush us. All right, so because the thief is still alive, we are going to defend until this happens. So this should kill the thief. The Black Mage just barely survives. And now we start the level grind.
Yeah, because the eye is the enemy who gives like the most experience compared to this amount of hit points.
So we're going to make sure that we don't forget to pick up the Levy Stone. We'll pick it up. And then this is a trap spike tile, so we're just going to keep stepping on it. Okay, that's random. That's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Because the trap tile doesn't count. When you step on a trap tile, it doesn't count for your RNG, and you cannot run into another fight on it.
That's correct. The trap tile is always the same thing, which can actually hurt you if you're in the Chaos Shrine and you step on the Marilith 2 tile, step off it by accident the wrong direction, and then step back on it. You have to fight Marilith again, even though you had just beaten her.
Isn't it the same with all 4 fiends?
Yes, they're all spike tiles.
Because I know, yeah, I knew in the original version they were, but since you mentioned Maryland specifically, I was wondering if it was the case for Lich, Kraken, and Tiamat.
Yeah, in the Chaos Shrine, they're all spike tiles. It's just Marilith is the one I did it on when I was doing a marathon.
Okay, now I see why you're... Yeah, okay, I get it.
Psychological scarring. The game does a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. A few years ago, I completed this game, well, the original NES version at the lowest possible level, and I'm never doing that again.
All right. Because I was talking, I lost count. We're on level 16. This is where we start slowing down and leveling up. So here's level 17. So because we're a little behind, I'm going to do 17 plus 1. So we're going to just take one more encounter, which will not give us the level. And then we're just going to move on, assuming that we're going to have enough unrunnables throughout the remainder of the run to pick up the 2 levels that we need to do our last bit of magic shopping. Because we got to go fast. Right, everybody? We want to go fast. There we go. So we're going to take a little risk, and we're just going to keep going because that's what speedrunning is taking risks.
Yeah.
Now you'll notice I intentionally did not raise the warrior. I still don't need him. He's just dead weight right now, literally. I brought back the thief in vain hopes that he will accidentally level enough that I can get haste on him.
Yeah, because after the class change, he's going to get the black magics.
Now it's very rare with how little level grinding we do. It's not very often, but you raise him so that way, just in case, you get it, because it shortens the chaos fight by an entire round.
Yeah, well, up until now, you were right about the unrunnables. I think this is like the 3rd Psychodemon fight in a row.
Yep. RNG always gets a vote. And that's why the world record is so hard to touch. Seiya 22 had absolutely amazing godlike RNG on his run. He was actually in the Total Chaos 2 tournament, did not end up winning it, but set the world record during the tournament because he just had amazing RNG. It's just fantastic to watch because you're like, this is just ungodly. That should not happen. So Forsyth has been grinding for almost a year trying to take the world record from him, and he's slowly chipping away, but 122 is a really, really tough score to beat.
Yeah, you actually need, well, it's pretty much the same for most RPG. I mean, you need good RNG in any RPG runs. I mean, personally, I do run Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, and the world record is almost impossible to get without godlike RNG and godlike menuing. You need both.
So we just got ambushed by Sahagins. So the problem with ambushes in this game, if you haven't already noticed, is that I have to wait for every one of the bad guys to take a turn, and then I can take a turn. So the complete opposite of a preemptive. With a preemptive, I get to shoot first. Just like Han Solo, my hero from Star Wars. You always shoot first. So you'll notice that twice I've jumped off the ship and into a canoe. I don't know exactly how that works. I know it works the same in the NES version, but it saves us a lot of time because we don't have to go to a port and traverse the land. We can just dump straight into a river right next to where we want to go.
Now you got the best item in the game.
Absolutely. So now we're going to say goodbye to our ship. We will never be coming back for it. We're just going to leave it right there.
I mean, the only place where the ship could have been useful is to get into, well, I know in the NES version it's called Castle of Ordeals, but I think this is a different name in this version.
Yep, the Citadel of Trial. Sorry, got lost there for a second. I went northwest instead of southwest.
those guys are dangerous.
Now for marathon safety, we're doing another safety save. There are sandworms for the next little bit. Sandworms have a 1 in 1,000 chance of casting Quake and killing off your entire party. And if he does that, that puts us back about 10 to 15 minutes because my last save was at the level grind in Ice Cave.
Yeah, and you don't want this.
No, it's very heartbreaking when that happens. Oh. And now into the Citadel of Trials. We talk to the dude in the long white beard. He disappears, and away we go.
Basically, this guy tells you need the crown in order to get in.
All right, so there's a secret to how to navigate the Citadel of Trials. Always take the bottom teleporter.
Yep, southmost pillar is always the right one.
Absolutely, every time. Even if you're not sure, if it looks lower than the other one, that's the one you take.
These guys can be dangerous too because... Oh, they only got fire in this one?
I'm not sure if they cast fire. Usually I get away from them fairly quickly.
Yeah, because in the original version they can cast fire, well, fire too. And they always come in packs of 5 to 9.
So zombie minotaurs are flagged as an unrunnable. So anytime I run into any group that has a zombie minotaur, I have to engage and take them out.
Okay, so up to now, the unrunnable encounter seems to be the same in both versions. I'm guessing the large Sahagins pack in Sea Shrine are also unrunnable.
Yes.
And this is like the most annoying fight.
Which is why we're just gonna go ahead and kill them. One, because I did the 17+1, so I need the experience. Two, because nightmares have such a high agility score, you may lose a lot of time trying to run away from them.
Yep. And they're not that hard to kill.
And darkness, spoiler alert, does absolutely nothing.
They did not fix it?
Nope. It's still broken.
Oh well, there were so many bugs and glitches in the original version, you cannot fix them all. They were bound to forget about one or two.
There we go. Lordly Robes, that's what I want. So by putting Lordly Robes on the Black Mage, we're boosting his intelligence score, so that way he can start casting AoE magic again. Now having done those two fights, plus the zombie Minotaur, once I hit the zombie dragon here at the end of this floor, we should be at level 19 with the Black Mage, White Mage, which gives us access to all the spells we need for the remainder of the run.
So level 19, you get level, what, 5 spells?
Yes.
So exit and warp.
Yep. So we'll use teleport, which I think is I'm not sure what that one translates to.
White spell is exit, black spell is warp.
Okay, so we pick up warp, and then we'll pick up Healera, and those are our 2 level 5 spells.
Wait, and if it's still working the same way, exit take you out of the dungeon and warp take you up 1 floor.
And that's what we want. We need it to take us up just 1 floor.
There's a lot of abuse you can use with warp spell, especially especially in the randomizer where you can get the warp spell before the Citadel of Trials. Because I know you can like randomize the pillars, and if you use warp spell, it takes you back 1 pillar.
Oh, okay.
And also, if you jump down the hole right above the Levystone in Ice Cave, you use warp, you're gonna warp back up into over the hole, and you can just pick up the stone.
Well, that could be useful, especially if you accidentally fall through it when you don't mean to.
Yep. But of course, this is no use in the original game, because you cannot get warp spell before the Levystone and the Citadel of Trial.
And if we didn't need teleport and healera, we wouldn't even do the class change, because we could do everything we need to for the most part without class change. But to get those spells, you have to have done the class change. So that necessitates this quest.
Yeah, because no matter what level you are, the Black Mage cannot learn Warp. He needs to be a Black Wizard.
So now we're on Dragon Island. We're going to head to Bahamut, and we're going to give him what he wants. He wants a little rat tail.
Okay, he looks much more impressive in this version.
Yeah, he's just a single square sprite in the NES version.
Yeah, and the same as all the other dragons.
All right.
Now, all 4 characters can have magics now.
Yes. Although we will not put any spells on the warrior, and if we do put spells on the ninja, it is only going to be haste. And I'm not sure if the ninja is going to be a high enough level. We'll see shortly. So now that we've done the class change, we're going to start making our trek to Gold. But before we go to Mount Gold, on the way we're going to pick up the Oxial. The Oxial is what gives us access to the water dungeon. So we're just going to fly west, and we're going to go to the caravan. Now in the NES version, you can actually land on the caravan. They patched that out. You actually have to land away and walk over to it.
I gotta say, since as I said, I do pretty much anything with this game except for speedrunning it, it feels weird to see that the warrior is the useless character in the party. Most of the time, all of your strat rely on the warrior.
And at least part of this run, the warrior is, we are dependent on the warrior, but it's only for item glitching. It's not for his melee weapon prowess. Though we are very grateful for it when it happens. All right, so we'll come right here. And we magically know to release the fairy in Gaia. So the fairy pops out of the bottle, flies away, and we're gonna go to the little fairy pond. And unlike in Legend of Zelda, we're not gonna get healed, but we're gonna get an item, the Oxial, which allows us to go breathe underwater.
Well, in the original version, you can open the bottle from anywhere, but you had to guess you needed to go to Gaia to meet the fairy.
All right, so the fairy is going to fly away and come back and give us the Oxial. So we do things out of order, and depending on the run, there are even greater deviations. So this is the part when you're watching the Total Chaos tournament, which usually happens at the beginning of the year. This is where you can see runners very wildly, and it makes it really hard for the commentators to guess who's ahead because of the route variance.
So now we're gonna do the other dungeons in the right order, right?
Yes, so we're gonna go into Mount Gold, and we're gonna do a safety save because there are a few scary encounters that we can have in here. Now, what I'll tell you is in the Mount Gold, when you're walking on lava tiles, you have a 0% chance of getting an enemy encounter. So we are going to do our best to maximize walking on lava tiles to minimize our encounter rate. Now, this can be really dangerous because right about now, all my characters only have 1 hit point. So I'm really banking on the fact that they can run away fast. Like right there, that's a scary section because we have to walk across a lot of land. And this one's another one. But we've been really lucky. Bless the RNG.
Yeah,
and this is the dungeon.
In the last room you passed before going down to the 5th floor, there it's actually a really good grinding spot that you're not gonna use, obviously. But there are like two trap tile with agamas. Agama is another great enemy to grind in this game because they got low HP, they give a lot of experience, and there are 2 trap tiles, one beside the other, so you can just go back and forth between them.
So for those of you that have done the NES version, you'll notice that the name is different.
Yep.
In the NES version, it's Carrie. In this version, it's Marilith. They intended for Marilith to be the name of the fire element fiend, but character limits made it so that they had to change it. So that's why they changed it to Carrie.
Yeah, because they were limited to 7 characters in the original version, I think.
Yes. Which is why you have a lot of unique abbreviations in the NES version.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out if they are Grey Imp or Great Imps. Because,
That's a good question.
I mean, the GR Ogres are green ogres, I guess. But also, they could still be Great Ogres. And who just happened to be green.
So right here, you're watching the unskippable cutscene of another bonus dungeon being opened. Now this is the 20th anniversary release of Final Fantasy I. So they added a lot of special content to it. So these bonus dungeons give you the opportunity to pit your Warriors of Light against some bosses and mini-bosses from other Final Fantasy games. So like, Hellfire Chasm, you can do Final Fantasy IV and mini-bosses. So you can actually fight the 4 fiends from Final Fantasy IV in Hellfire Chasm. So we're gonna come in here. We cannot get haste on the ninja. And we're gonna skip Lazaria because I accidentally bought a speed potion and that used up all the money I had left. We'll be fine. We'll just use the Judgment Staff when we would have used Lazaria.
You're gonna lose like, what, 5 seconds?
About that. Getting lost is losing me more. I went right, left. Hold on, getting my bearings. Melman, that's where I was headed. Right there. So we go in here to Melman, and we pick up our last 2 spells. Except for... Oh. We can't buy healer of that. It's going to be a problem. Let me see how much I can sell that. Only 500? That's not going to be enough. All right, we're going to do a quick reset. Because without Healera, we can't finish the run. All right. So luckily, Mount Gold is a quick dungeon, so we can get through here fairly fast. Wait. We still have to speed drink here, don't we? Yep. So we'll go to one of my other saves. All right. Let's see. Well, that's kind of a bummer. So we'll have to go back and do the Citadel of Trials real quick. So I'm definitely going to bust time. Luckily, everybody else has been either on time or a little ahead.
So basically, you need Ilra and you need Warp, or only one of them?
I absolutely need Healera. I probably could have gotten by without Warp, but Healera is key to the Chaos fight. Without Healera, we can't finish it. So that was a fat-fingered mistake. I was trying to buy Giant's tonics and accidentally did one too many up inputs and picked up a speed tonic, and we absolutely don't need that. So now everybody watching gets to see a lesson of why it's important to be very careful with your inputs, even though you're trying to be fast. Because that tonic is really expensive, but has it's almost useless in trying to sell it.
I was wondering though, is it really faster to redo both dungeon, or just grinding the money would have been an option?
I could probably grind for it, but I'm just not familiar enough with the game to know where to grind to get that money.
Okay, I get it. If I had to guess, I would say maybe on your way to Lithane, or whatever the name is in this version.
Oh, to Marilift?
No, I mean on your way, you know, the area around the place where you get the chime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where all the zombie minotaurs and stuff are.
Yeah. But anyway, you're gonna do it.
Yep.
No biggie.
There we go. But Lord of the Robes, Sage's Staff, and we're gonna keep going.
That's the thing with RPG speedrun. One input can mess you up for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but that's the first time I've messed that one up, so that's all right.
Yeah, that never happened before.
At least not in that point. I was hoping that that was a mistake that would buff out, but apparently it didn't.
Well, that's marathon luck for you.
But we're at a no reset marathon, so we're not going to quit. We're going to keep pushing and see if I can maybe save time somewhere else and get close to my estimated time.
Well, I mean, I'm enjoying it, so that's fine.
So we grab our rat's tail again.
Yeah, somebody pointed out in the chat, one input or bad roll of RNG can change everything in an RPG.
Now I have to double check. I think we're good on levels, but I have to double check because I need that level 19. We're good. Okay. I didn't want to make that mistake. If you leave here, this is the best place to get levels. Those zombie dragons are worth a lot of experience.
Yep. And this is another trap tile, so it's easy to encounter them back to back.
So sometimes when you're doing the 17+1, you'll hit that tile maybe 2 times to make sure that you have enough experience points to ensure that the white mage and the black mage are level 19. So now for the last scary part, we're going to hope that there are no sandworms here. And, oh, that's still in the window. Oh, we're good. Now we'll head back to Bahamut. That just means you get to watch the 4 Warriors of Light do a flourish and a spin as they put on new clothes. So, kind of their version of the fashion catwalk.
This version looks really great.
I love the graphics update that they did to the PSP version. They did a really good job on the PS1 version as well. I really like the graphics on that one.
Yep.
It's just the item glitch on this one makes it so playable. Like, really, anybody who's thinking of speedrunning an RPG, Final Fantasy 1 is a, unless you do an input like the one I just did, is a very forgiving game for the most part. The RNG is the thing that's not forgiving. It will always crush your soul. But as far as the mechanics and learning how everything works in the game, it's fairly simple. The dungeons aren't very complicated. I mean, I was able to go from not speedrunning this game at all to within 2 months, I was able to get a 1:37 time on it. So I went from almost 3 hours from my first playthrough to a 1:37 in about 60 days.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty impressive.
And I'm a fairly busy guy, so I wasn't playing every day. And this is actually an unrunnable encounter, so I actually need to stop running away and take them on. This is not a very common formation, except in Mount Gold. So that's a common mistake to try and run away from those guys. Now, one of the things to note is hellhounds that you run into sometimes in the Chaos Shrine, as well as in Mount Gold, even though they don't have an ogre mage there, sometimes it's reacting as if there is an ogre mage there. So it's flagged as an unrunnable, even though you don't see an ogre mage. So we refer to it as that's the invisible ogre mage formation. So if you try to run away twice from a hellhound formation and you can't get away, you have to treat it, you basically treat it like an unrunnable encounter and you take them out.
Yeah, because basically the encounter is like, I think it's 1 or 2 hellhounds and 0 to 1 or 0 or to 2 mages.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get the 0, you don't see the ogre mages, but the hellhounds are still going to be there.
Right. So you won't technically have an indication that it's an unrunnable encounter. You just have to know that with a 1 or a 2 hellhound formation, just go ahead and engage it as if it is an unrunnable. All right. So we are going to save over this one. Nope. Let's save over the correct one. There we go. So now we're set up properly. And you'll notice on the in-game timer, I'm still at the same time I was the last time I came in here. So that's a good sign. At least in-game time, we haven't lost any. But the RNG is definitely not being as kind this go around as it was the last time we came through Mount Gold.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And I apologize to anybody watching in chat if it sounds like I'm yelling. There's a lot of noise here, so I'm trying to make sure that you all can hear me. All right. So now we're just traversing the lava tiles.
Yeah, right now the Iris Studio is going all out. The Iris stage, I mean, they're going all out, so...
All right. We are almost to the end of Mount Gold. All right, so we're back at the Merilith fight. Now, one of the things to make items react quickly is if it has an animation, if you just mash the button input, you skip the healing animations. So like with Antidote and with the Phoenix Downs. If you just mash the button input, you skip the casting skip the item animation, and it saves you about a second or two. Which, in a run this long, you would think seconds aren't that big of a deal, but over time, a second here, 8 seconds there, all that can really add up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on track. We've taken the Merilith fight, and we're going to keep on pressing. So now I should have enough money to do all the magic buying that I was trying to do earlier. That would be perfect. Let's celebrate with that.
All right, so we have a $10 anonymous donation. Final Fantasy 1 is the first game I ever tried to speedrun. This run has been a lot of fun to watch. Also, let's do the right thing tonight and kill the animals.
Absolutely. Who wants animals?
I agree with that.
I mean, because if you save the animals, you have to feed them, you have to potty train them. That's a lot of effort. Whereas if you just let them die, you don't have that problem. And they're not your animals. You're technically not responsible for them.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you have to think about those frames. You need to save the frames, come on.
Absolutely, because frames add up. So we're heading back to Elfheim to pick up our level 4 black magic spell that we need. So we need Haste and Blazeria. And this time, because I managed the money properly, I should be able to get both spells. Oh, and bonus, the thief can cast Haste. Except for I'm out of money again. How am I out of money again? I must have forgot to sell something. What is going on? I should have plenty of money there. You have to have haste, you have to have Halera, and we have to have teleport. I'm not sure what I've done that's made it so that I'm running out of money so fast. I should be good. Trying to think of where I can go to grind some money.
Well, as I said, my guess would be in the northeast area with a bunch of woods where you're going to get the chime.
Yeah, I guess we could go there. That's disappointing.
This is the only easily accessible place I can think of.
All right, so we'll grind a little bit of money here. Again, this
okay.
is.
Dave Tendo saying that you have 3 Knights Armors to sell.
Oh, is that the problem? I only sold 1? Well, that would definitely be a problem. For those of you that were checking my item inventory, thank you. Now it all makes sense. So we'll go back and sell those and pick up the last couple spells we need.
As I said, I know the game, but I don't know the PSP run that much, so thanks, chat.
All right. Melmon's over this way.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and buy the magic a little out of order to try and save a little bit of time. So we'll go up here and sell those knight armors that I should have sold here. There we go. Now we should have enough money to do what we need to. So again, an easy mistake to make. When I was selling knight's armor early on, you can sell 1 and have enough money to get pretty far in the run, as you can see. All right. So we will actually skip Blazeria. We have haste, so we should be good to go. So now to remember where we're at magic buying. We have the Oxial. So now we're off to the shrine for water. All right, now I'm all sorts of discombobulated. Think for a second.
You did pick up the Oxial after resetting, right?
I did. So I should be... So I'm headed over to... There's Gaia.
Okay, so it would be right until you reach... what's the name? Down there?
There we go, right here. Here we go. Map movement. So the airship is awesome, but the problem with the airship is you can go so fast that you lose your placement on the world map.
Unrack. I was trying to remember the name of this place.
Right. So we're gonna go into Onrack. I don't think there's a pronunciation guide, so I guess you can call it whatever you want.
Well, O-N-R-A-C, so...
All right.
we're gonna start by going up the dungeon before going down.
Correct. So we're going to go and pick up the Rosetta Stone. Once we have the Rosetta Stone, then we'll go back to the original floor of the dungeon and head over to Kraken.
This is also the place where you can run into one of the most annoying encounter in the game. Those Sahagins pack.
Yep.
Because they are unrunnable. There's always 9 of them. They have a really high agility stat, so...
And this dungeon and the Chaos Shrine are the two that have the most unrunnable encounters in the game. There are so many enemy formations in both this one and Chaos Shrine that you have to fight through. We've been lucky so far, and we haven't had any unrunnables in Water Citadel.
Yeah, because you cannot run away from Sahagins, you cannot run away from Ghosts, you cannot run away from Waters.
Right. Now this is the 5th floor, so the 5th floor has no encounters whatsoever. So if you wanted to, you could come through and talk to all the mermaids, but we don't need to. We have to make up time. So we're just going to pick up the Rosetta Stone and move along and just help the mermaids out anyways. So here's where you see where teleport is important. Because now we exit this floor and go back to the previous floor where we left it. So we'll cast it twice in a row, get us back to the original floor we entered on, and then we'll swing to the left and start going through different floors.
I don't know if they fixed it in the PSP version, but I know it was the case in the NES version. But funny fact, the only elemental monster you can run away from is air.
And you can still do that here.
You cannot run away from Earth Elemental, you cannot run away from Fire, you cannot run away from Water Elemental, but for some reason you can run away from air.
I guess air just can't hold on to you. It has no physical mass, I guess, is their thinking. So we have to fight through the ghosts, unrunnable encounter. So we're swinging over here to this room, and we're going to grab the treasure chest that has the light axe. And this is where the Water Citadel can eat a lot of time. And so that's why splits in this area can vary widely by about 2 minutes based on your encounters. So we're going to swing to the right of the chest because the right of the chest doesn't have a spike tile for some odd reason.
Well, if I had to guess, I think the reason is that there was already a trap tile in the NES version on the left and on the under the chest, and you couldn't go to the right. There was a wall there. So I guess they just expanded the room, but they forgot to put a trap tile on the right.
All right. So I put Lordly Robes on the White Mage, prepping for when I need her to start casting Healer up. And I put the Sage's Staff on her because of that too. Oh. Again, this is a frame perfect glitch. And left bumper is always my hardest one. So the way this item glitch works, because you're trying to kind of fake the game out and make it think that you're doing something that you're not, you have to hit left or right bumper and X at the exact same time. By hitting right bumper and X at the same time, it switches before the game has a chance to register the swap, and it switches it to the character that you want the item on. And that's how you're tricking the game to allow you to have the stuff that you want on the characters that they shouldn't be able to have.
There was the Sahagin pack we were talking about.
So I don't know if I explained that part of the item glitch, but that's the part that can give a lot of runners a really hard time. Is there's usually one direction that people have a hard time glitching to, and it's usually the left. Syncing up your left forefinger and your right thumb can sometimes be a little troublesome. So of the 4 fiends, Kraken is probably the most snazzy dressed, and he's probably the most impotent in this run. Like, there's really nothing Kraken can do to threaten us.
Okay. Well, I know in the among the 4, he's got the highest physical. Well, he deals the highest physical damages.
But because of how we've stacked those survival vests on everybody just a few moments ago, that's raised our defense up to the point where he really can't do a whole lot of damage.
Yeah, so basically the only thing he can do, you just canceled it.
And he's done. The only other thing that he sometimes does is he'll cast darkness on everybody, and again, that doesn't do anything to us. So for the most part, the way we play this game, we have completely negated anything that Kraken can do to us, both Kraken 1 and our second encounter with him, Kraken 2. So now we are reactivating the water crystal.
We only got 1 left.
So now we get to watch the water dungeon unlock. So if you remember, there's a whirlpool over by Melmond. This is the bonus dungeon that's connected to that whirlpool. So once you beat Kraken, you have access to it, and you can go in and try and collect the items and beat some bosses from other Final Fantasy games.
I'm guessing Ultros is one of them.
Ultros is in there. I'm not sure which dungeon he's in. You'd have to ask Forsyth or one of the guys in chat, but he's in there. I've seen his sprite on a sprite sheet. And so is Phantom Train, believe it or not. But you can't suplex him, so I don't know if that really counts.
Nah. Without the suplex, Phantom Train is pointless.
Exactly. I will wait to cast the Phoenix down just so I can watch Sabin suplex a train, because that's just awesome.
Yeah.
So now we're headed to Waterfall Cave, which is by far my least favorite cave. The RNG in here is through the roof. There are going to be times where we'll take 3 or 4 steps and hit another encounter.
This is one of the other reasons why you got the teleport spell.
Yes. So that way, as soon as we pick up the ribbon and the warp cube, we can just get out of here.
And for anybody who played other Final Fantasy game, the ribbon does exactly what you think it does.
And we're going to glitch it, and we're going to put it on everybody. And interestingly, this is the only time we do the glitch in reverse. So we will pick up the ribbon, and then we'll equip it to, well, we'll be tricking the game to think that we're equipping it to the warrior when we're actually glitching a Gigan axe onto the ninja. From there, we'll put the Gigan axe back in our inventory, and then we'll glitch ribbons onto everybody, which saves us time because we don't have to go and find all 4 ribbons.
Yeah, because one of them is in the Sea Shrine, the other one is in the floating castle, and both of them are way out of your way.
Absolutely.
And if I recall correctly, both of them are hidden behind trap tiles.
I believe so.
I know for sure the Sea Shrine one is hidden behind a trap tile. I'm not 100% sure about the one in the floating castle, but I think it is.
Yeah, I've never gone looking for the other ones, because this is so much easier just to glitch the ribbons and give it to everybody. So this is a spike tile, and unfortunately, RNG, the robot is in about the worst place possible, because now I have to walk all the way back over and get the ribbon in the second chest from the left. No encounters, that was awesome.
I think you broke the robot.
We did. He wasn't much of a robot anyways. All right, so there's the Giga Axe. We're gonna take it off. And then from here, we're gonna start putting ribbons. Now you'll notice I'm putting ribbons for most everybody else in a shield slot. The reason I'm doing that is because in the PSP game, hold on just a second. Menuing fast. Here we go. So the PSP version has an animation for shields. So if it picks that you defended an attack with a shield and you put an item in there that does not have an animation associated with it, it soft locks the game. So if we were to accidentally put a knight's armor in the shield slot and then an enemy were to strike and the game picked that the knight's armor blocked it, it would soft lock the game. However, for some weird reason, Ribbon and Lordly Robes use a parry animation. So we can put it in the shield slot, thus maximizing our defense, and get to use the parry animation instead. So bonus for us.
Well, that's weird. So now you're going to translate the slab.
That's right. So we're going to find our friend Dr. Une.
Yeah, who's going to teach you an entire language in 3 seconds?
It's amazing. I wish I could have learned Russian and Ukrainian that fast. 3 seconds would have been awesome. And if I could learn foreign languages that fast, I could learn French, and then I could understand a lot more in the Discord.
Yeah. See?
So we're going to cast Teleport here, which gets us out of having to deal with that NPC with the blue hair. He has a tendency to walk in the way. So this way we bypass NPC movement. So now we're back to where we were about 13 minutes ago. We're going to park the airship up here, and we're going to head to Lufenian, or Lufenian. And now that we speak their language, we can get the chime. Now the one thing is there's a high probability of us running into zombie minotaurs, which is an unrunnable encounter. So there's a good chance that we'll have maybe 2 to 3 minimum zombie minotaur encounters going down, and probably another 2 to 3 coming up. But we're going to maximize the marsh tiles to try and minimize that.
So, pretty lucky till now.
So far, fingers crossed.
Come on, you're almost there.
There we go. They were lurking. All right. Now here's another opportunity for NPCs to get in the way. There's 2 spots that could be kind of problematic. So that was good on one, but bad on the second. So we're just going to push on him and hope he gets out of our way.
And this is one magic shop you're not going to visit.
Yep, we won't go in here at all. We're out of here. And
Anyway.
in fact, because we don't want to deal with NPCs, teleport.
Anyway, why would you get to this magic shop? Yeah, you already got nuke.
Exactly. I can cast nuke for free. So because of unrunnable encounters for the remainder of the run, we're going to be good on levels. The last time we had to really worry about leveling was getting to level 19 in time to get those spells. So from now on, any levels we get really are gravy. We don't want to be too high of a level. Usually the mages, we want to have them between 26 and 28. And the warrior and thief can be anywhere between a 22 and a 24. And we'll still be good for the chaos fight. So to minimize RNG, we're on the water. It quasi-worked for us. So now we're going to take the long airship ride to the Mirage Tower.
Yeah, very long.
Oh, by the way, we're here. So the only unrunnable encounter in this tower that I remember is the blue dragon. So if we run into a blue dragon not on the spike tile, we have to attack him.
Can you run away from the eye in this dungeon?
No, you can't. But the eye's usually in the flying fortress. I haven't really run into them too often in here.
No, they're not in the tower, but I tend to I count those 2 dungeons as one.
You pretty much can. Because you have to go into one to get to the other.
Yeah, basically this is all part of your way to Tiamat.
All right, with 3, I think we're good. Now, the one thing that's kind of interesting is with the Wind Shrine, as we're going through here, you're going to see some technological stuff. So with Final Fantasy 1, it was mixing both fantasy and it put a sprinkling of sci-fi in there.
Well, we already saw a robot.
Yep, we picked the warp cube from a robot, and you saw those 2 parry animations just a second ago. Those are because there's a ribbon in the shield slot, which is how we avoided a soft lock, but maximizing our item inventory management by putting something there so that way we could save those spots for things that give us higher defense. Because the main thing that the ribbon does is it lowers what magic does to us and negates all effects. Now this blue dragon is a spike tile, so we have to fight him. And even though I accidentally left the Lust Dagger onto the ninja, he still hits hard enough that we're good. But I will have to fix that before we get to Tiamat, because he won't hit hard enough without the Barbarian Sword.
There you go with the eye. Seems like I jinxed it.
Oh no, he shows up all the time, right about there for me. I'm fairly used to him showing up here. Especially if I have a run that's kind of off kilter. If the Evil Eye knows that I'm a little tilted, he'll show up multiple times. Just to remind me that Final Fantasy 1 RNG always has a vote. Now, one of the things I think I liked better about the NES version than the PSP version is that the Flying Fortress looks very technological.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it just looks like a smoothed out fantasy castle.
I mean, what's funny about this dungeon is that if you play it casually and you try to get all the chests, this is a really, really long dungeon. If you just rush towards the end, you can get in and out in like 3 minutes.
Now, the floor that we're on is a trick floor. So this is the eternal floor if you don't do it right. So you either have to go 2 spaces left or 2 spaces right, and then either 2 spaces up or 2 spaces down.
Yep.
If you don't, you're going to miss it. Now, here's a chance. We have a 1 in 64 chance of hitting a war mech. Did we get the war mech? No. War mech is shy. He didn't get asked out a lot to prom. Now I'm gonna fix the ninja real quick because I want that Barbarian Sword. And then we're gonna, for safety's sake, we're gonna heal up because if he does Thunderbolts, he could potentially do a high amount of damage even though we have the ribbons on.
I'm actually kind of surprised that you don't safety save at the beginning of the floor, just in case you run into Warmech.
I've run into him so rarely, he's never really been a threat.
Okay.
And there's the Thunderbolt I was telling you about. It still does a fairly decent amount of damage, which is why I like to heal up at the safety strat, just in case.
All right, so we're off to the final dungeon now?
Yes. So now we'll activate the final crystal, and then we're going to go back to the first dungeon that we visited at the beginning of the run about an hour and 38 minutes ago, which is the Chaos Shrine. So my guesstimation is that we probably have about another 10 minutes before I hit the end of this run.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because it'll take us about 2 to 3 minutes to get to that Death Eye, and then from there it'll take about 3 minutes to get to Lich 2, and then about 1 minute to 2 minutes for each successive fiend.
Well, it all going to go to depend on how many unrunnable encounters you run into, basically.
And we have to watch out for white dragons. White dragons are absolutely awful. You can run away from them.
I guess they're the equivalent of gas dragon from the NES.
Probably. They are awful. They have a high agility, and they have a tendency to cast an AoE spell. And if they cast a lot of ice storms, it can wipe out your party even though you have the ribbon.
Oh, they might be frost dragon then.
Now here you're having the last bonus dungeon being opened. So this is actually a speed dungeon. You have to, there's a bunch of speed challenges you can do in there. But we're not gonna go in there. We're gonna touch the orb and move through. Now you'll remember earlier, about an hour and 38 minutes ago, I told you all that when we came through here, if we had time to go back, you can talk to the bats and they say key key. Well, now that we know Lufanean, the bats talk to you.
Really?
The reason the bats talk to you, and I didn't want to read their stuff, but the reason they talk to you is that's the Lufanean Light Warriors. So the Lufaneans have already tried to break the cycle and failed. So the airship we've been joyriding in for the past hour was theirs.
Okay.
But they failed at stopping Chaos, and Chaos turned them into bats.
I feel like this was added in the PSP version because I don't think you can talk to those bats in the NES. But I'm gonna have to try because I'm curious right now.
So I know they say key key in the NES version.
Yep.
I've never gone back in the NES version to see if they do actually say something. But in the PSP version, like you all saw, they can talk to you, and so they'll tell you how they failed to beat Garland, who turns into Chaos. And there's not supposed to be an encounter here. This is a random, but they're green dragons, so we have to fight through them.
Okay, I think those are the gas dragons from the NES.
They are, probably, because they use a gas attack.
Yeah, okay. The white dragons are just frost dragons.
Now you'll see that we're now playing the loot. So here's the item, 3 minutes into the game, that you have to make sure you pick up. Otherwise, you can't go into this part of the dungeon. And if you come in here, you can get locked in. So now we're going to go back through B3, which will look the same. And then we'll go through B2, which will also look the same. But floor 1 will look different, because instead of being on the bottom of the shrine, we're now going to be on the top. Actually, we should be good here, because I'm not going to be using Blazaria. I'm going to be using the Judgment Staff. So that should take out the Ice Gigas.
This is another unrunnable, by the way.
But normally I would use Blazaria and 2 melee attacks. But since I didn't pick up Blazaria, because I was low on money, because I forgot about the Knight's Armors, we can just use Flare, and Flare will do the job. And then I don't have to use physical attacks to make sure that the Ice Gigas die.
Anyway, just using Flare seems faster than Bizarra and 2 physical attacks.
It probably is. It's something that when I'm not doing this for time, I should probably experiment. Now this is a floor that terrifies me because these guys, they have a high agility, so they can do multiple attacks while we're trying to get away.
Oh, you got away.
But I'm sure we'll see him at least 1 or 2 more times. Purple worms are an unrunnable encounter.
Yep.
So we'll have to take him out.
Basically, in the PSP version, they just added a collar because they're just called Worm in the NES.
All right, we are almost through probably the hardest floor in the dungeon. And the reason that floor is so hard is because of those white dragons. Because if they get a high agility roll, or like a high speed roll, and they lock you and pin you down, they'll just keep casting Ice Storm until they kill off your party.
Another unrunnable.
Now the reason I switched from the Judgment Staff to Fyra is Fyra is about a 4 to 5 second casting animation, whereas Flare is about an 8 to 9 second.
Yeah, and they both do the same job, so.
Now we're headed to probably one of the scariest fights if you forget to do any healing before you hit Lich 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because Lich 2 can cast Flare, and if you're not at full HP, there's a chance he'll wipe out your entire party in one hit. But we're not going to let him do that.
Well, just the fact that you have that option is a pretty good upgrade, because in the NES version, you just get into this fight and pray for the best.
And we're going to safety save, so that way I don't have to go back through those white dragons if for some reason he does outmaneuver me. And just as a safety, we're going to cast haste on the warrior and see if the black mage moves first. Sometimes he does, because the warrior is the one that's going to hit the softest.
There it goes.
Now, the warrior and the white mage should be a high enough HP they should survive. And he only casts Flare once, so we should be good.
So worst part is over.
Yep, so now we just have to make the next hardest thing is just if Chaos is trolly in the first 1 to 2 rounds.
Yeah, because I'm not sure how the bosses and enemies are programmed in this one, but I know in the NES version, they got like a list of spells they're always going to cast in the same order. But they got like some chances to cast a spell in each turns. So they might attack, they might use a skill, but if they cast a spell, they're all going to use the same spell in the same order every single time.
Yeah, and Chaos doesn't do that. He will actually vary up his casting. So what I do not want is for him to use Cyclone. First of all, Cyclone has a long casting animation. Second of all, it's his AoE that does the most damage. So before I get the first healer out after I giant tonic the black mage, if he does a Cyclone, he's going to kill the black mage and I'll have to reset.
We don't say that word here. This is a little like Voldemort and Harry Potter. We don't say that.
That's right. But we're hoping that that's not going to happen.
It's not.
So Merilith is done. So the Merilith 2 and the Kraken 2 fights are not that difficult. They're pretty easy to get through. The hardest part is just traversing the floor.
And another unrunnable.
Now, since I did not pick up Lazaria, I have to go with Flare.
Yeah, because strangely, water elementals are not weak against thunder, they're weak against ice.
I know, who knew? I thought that turning them to ice would actually make them more dangerous, like they're flinging ice shards, but I guess that's not the way they went with it when they were thinking about what to make it weak against.
Yeah, this is basically the only water elemental enemy in the game who's not weak against thunder.
That was actually a pretty good floor. Only one unrunnable encounter, and we're almost to Kraken. I hope I didn't just jinx myself.
Yeah. Of course.
And so the Black Mage is moving slower in the lineup because I've started putting casting stuff on him to make sure that his AoE spells will wipe out mobs. So that's why you're seeing he's moving slower. There we go. Slow down. There we go. So I'm casting haste on the warrior to give him a little boost, so that way I can hopefully cut a round out of fighting these fiends a second time.
Yeah, because haste can save a lot of time.
Because if I hadn't hasted the warrior, I would have had to have had the warrior and thief hit.
And among all the 4 elemental floors in this dungeon, I feel like the water floor is the worst of them all.
Just because it's so easy to get lost, there's so many doors you go in and out of.
Yeah, and this is the one where you get the highest chance of running into unrunnable fight. I mean, I know this is in the NES, of course. I'm not sure it's the same in this version. But I know in the NES version, you can, there's like a 60% chance to run into water elemental.
Let's see. All right. Now, luckily, Scourge doesn't do anything to us now because we have ribbons on everybody in the party. But that's a good thing to have happen, so it makes sure that you verify that you have ribbons on everybody. Because if Scourge hits somebody, it means you missed a ribbon. And you absolutely have to have ribbons on everybody for the Chaos fight.
Yeah, because this is a real final boss.
Yeah, he's actually going to take me a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of item glitching. We're going to put Lordly Robes, and we're going to make it so that way every time the White Mage casts Healera, she's going to heal us about 250.
Yeah, which is going to be needed because Chaos can deal a lot of damage.
Let's see. That should be good. Wait. Let's do a heal. Heal everybody up. And we need maximum HP, maximum MP. Because sometimes, if Chaos is incredibly trolly, you can actually run the White Mage out of magic. And if she can't cast Healer, you've got about 2 rounds. If you don't finish him off in 2 rounds, you're probably done. But we healed everybody up, so we should be good.
Can he also heal himself to full in this version?
He can. I think it's in round 9 or 10, he starts casting his own healing spell, and it puts him back at maximum health.
All right, final boss, guys.
All right, so final boss hype, here we go.
Hype!
Okay, so we're gonna put Giant's Tonics, if I can find where they are in the items list, on the Ninja, and we're gonna put it on the Black Mage. By putting a Giant's Tonic on them, we give them an HP boost. They need that HP boost because they will not survive the AoE attacks at their current HP level.
Okay, that's a big HP boost. This item doesn't exist in the original version.
Now the Black Mage should be good. He should survive this. It's usually a 163. Ooh.
Oh, barely, but yeah, he did.
We are good then. That's one of the worst rounds.
So the Giant Tonic doesn't exist in the original version, but I feel like the item I'm missing the most is the Phoenix Down.
That was close again. Black Mage is living on a prayer. So for those of you who are asking for Bless RNG, you are helping me out. Because the Black Mage is teetering on death every time.
Yeah, Portside got your back. He's saying you got this, right?
But at this point, now we should be safe. So now it's just hold X.
It feels like playing Final Fantasy 13. Just hold X.
Yep, at this point, and see, had he cast Cyclone a round earlier, that could have been problematic. Now the Black Mage has enough HP, we should be good. The only big thing is that it's the longest casting animation of any spell in this entire game.
So time is coming up.
It should be. Probably not this round, it'll be next round. So the time there's a screen flash, as soon as he's dying, that's time. And Earthquake does nothing to us because we have the ribbons. So next round will probably be time. Nope. He has to be pretty low.
Yeah. Every time the screen flashes because of a critical strike or something, I think he's done.
Time.
Yeah.
All right, and that, my friends, is Final Fantasy 1. We have stopped the time loop. With Chaos being dead, we've now saved the world. All right, so as we watch the credits roll a little bit, I just want to shout out to the Final Fantasy I community. The fact that Porsyth and a couple of the guys are on there in chat, thank you guys for helping out with explaining the game. And more importantly, a year ago, when I first started learning this game, this month, a year ago, you guys embraced me and brought me in and have been very supportive. And I appreciate all the help that you guys have given, the suggestions, and just helping me learn this run and being here today. Also to Tavtendo, my brother, you're the man. Thank you for getting me into speedrunning, as well as to DD for bringing me here. That's awesome. As well as the crowd. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You guys are the MVPs, hanging with me when I can't count on how many Knights Armors I've sold. So thank you all for being here.
And I'm going to thank you for submitting this run. It went over estimate, but it was really entertaining to watch. And as we always say, without the runners, there's no marathon. So thanks for coming.
You're welcome. And like I said earlier, if you're interested in this run, it's an easy one to pick up. If you're looking for an RPG, it can have punishing RNG, but it's really easy to learn, and you have a very supportive community. So again, thanks to NoReset Marathon for being here and giving me the opportunity to showcase this run, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, thank you for, once again, a very entertaining run, Raenus. It was an absolute pleasure to have you with us. So everyone, come on, let's hear it one more time for Raenus. Let's go.
And I got the slowpoke because I went over.
Yep. It's the highest honor, really.